Okay, here we go. Coming up, please welcome Robert Newman. Where's Robert Newman? Here we go.
Here it comes.
This is a big honor for me. I've known our first inductee for about 25 years or so. At 17, Rocky enlisted in the United States Army. And within a year, he was the All-Army champ and the Inter-Service champ at middleweight. He beat all the Marines, sailors, the Air Force, and that qualified him for the 1976 Olympic trials. He came up short in his bid to make the team, and in November of '76, he turned professional. He reeled off 24 straight wins, during which time he became a sparring partner for Marvelous Marvin Hagler during Hagler's prep for his first title shot against Vito Antuofermo. In '81, Fratto won the Battle of the Rockies when he beat Rocky Mosley and picked up the North American Boxing Federation junior middleweight title and the number 2 ranking in the WBA with a vacant title that was vacated by Sugar Ray Leonard. Fratto would lose a heartbreaking 15-round decision. Remember those days? 15 rounds for the vacant title against Japan's Tadashi Mihara in his adopted hometown of Rochester, New York. After 10 long, hard years in the ring and a very respectable 28-4 record, Rocky would hang up the gloves inside the ring, but he would remain present outside the ring as a trainer, manager, promoter. He guided Robert Push-Up Frazier to a title shot in the same junior middleweight division in which he competed. I am so very proud to be able to welcome the first inductee into the 2024 New York State Boxing Hall of Fame class. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met, inside the ring or out. Ralph Rocky Fratto. And joining him is his son and birthday boy, Mario Fratto.
Okay, I'm going to speak a few words on my father's behalf, and then he'd like to thank everyone as well. Give me a second here. Well, thanks, Bob, for the great introduction of my father and for the birthday wishes. Today is my 40th birthday. And I couldn't be happier to be here spending it honoring my father and the other inductees. My father always loved boxing. Before he ever laced up a pair of gloves himself, he'd watch all the big fights, and he'd tag along to the cards with my grandfather, who was a local boxing coach. From his very first fight, it was obvious he had talent and natural abilities, and that takes you far in boxing. But what I've always been most proud of is his incredible heart and the will to win. He took pride in what he did and always gave it his best. At just 17 years old, he left his home, joined the Army, became the Army and Inter-Service champion. And he beat guys like future national champion James Rayford and 1976 Olympic team alternate Henry Bunch on his way to the Olympic trials. And that year, if you guys remember, 76 was the best Olympic team of all time. The competition was fierce back then in the 70s and 80s, especially in the welterweight and middleweight ranks. This was the two-belt era when ratings and title shots were hard to come by, and the four kings were dominating the sport. With Marvin Hagler ruling the middleweight division and Sugar Ray Leonard reigning in the welterweight division, Rocky Fratto was right in between at junior middleweight and the highest-rated American in the division. He became I hear my son cheering for me day and day. Thanks, buddy. He became an NYSBHOF champion in April of '81, beating Rocky Mosley in Rochester in a real war that kept the crowd on their feet. My father was set to fight Ayub Kaluli for the WBA title when Sugar Ray Leonard stepped in and moved up in weight for that fight, and he ultimately won the WBA crown in June of '81. However, in September of 1981, Sugar Ray Leonard would fight Tommy Hearns for the undisputed welterweight title. And according to the rules back then, you could only hold the belt in one weight class or the other. So at the time, Leonard vacated the 154-pound title. And in 1981, my father was rated number 1 in the country by the USBA and number 2 in the world by the WBA. And he got his chance for a title fight in November of '81. This was the first world title fight ever held in Rochester, New York. And like his whole career up until that point, it really helped revitalize boxing in upstate New York. One of the commentators on ESPN described it as one of the best fights he's ever seen. My father lost a one-point decision that night, and with it, the opportunity to fight Charlie Weir in South Africa for $500,000 in his first defense, which had already been negotiated with Bob Arum and Top Rank. Every fighter wants to be world champion someday. It was my father's dream, but I truly believe losing that fight was the best thing that ever happened to me. Shortly after that loss, he married my mother and had us 3 boys. Now he has 5 beautiful grandchildren and a 6th on the way. Thank you to my amazing mother, Sally, for standing by him throughout his career and being his rock.
Yes.
And thank you to his parents, my grandparents, who supported him 100% throughout his career. And I'd also like to thank my brothers, Ralph and Frank, for gifting me with this beautiful opportunity on my birthday to honor our father. My father also would like to thank all the fans who came out for him time and time again throughout his career. My father loves boxing. He loves the people in boxing even more, especially other fighters. We all know that boxing people are the most down-to-earth people who will give you the shirts off their backs. His boxing friends have remained his friends for life, and he's always grateful for that. On behalf of my father, Rocky Fratto, I'd like to thank Jack Hirsch and the entire New York State Boxing Hall of Fame for this incredible honor. Congratulations to all of the inductees, and thank you everybody who came here to support this class of 2024. God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everything everybody's done for me. Thank you.
Let's smile now, she says.
Thank you guys so much.
We're going to keep it going. And Robert Newman is going to do our next induction of Billy C.
Okay, well, my eyes are dry. I'm ready to go. Bill Calogero, affectionately known as Billy C, has been involved in the pro boxing business for over 35 years. He's a manager, promoter, advisor, matchmaker, boxing historian, writer, TV and radio host, and boxing personality. He authored the book Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. Talking Boxing with Billy C runs live every day for 2 hours from 8 to 10 in the morning on the internet on www.billycboxing.com. It's simulcast on FM and AM radio stations across the country and Canada, and it's available via podcast with over 250,000 combined podcast subscribers and on demand, as well as YouTube channel. My favorite thing about this guy, besides running into him at the fights in upstate New York and talking about boxing, is his $1 million smile. Please welcome our second inductee into the 2024 New York State Boxing Hall of Fame, Billy C. Bill Calogero.
Thank you. Jack has indicated I got to cut it short, so I only have 20 pages here. But I grew up watching fights on TV during a great era in the 60s and 70s. One fight that sticks out in my mind was the Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Young fight. When I watched that fight, I thought Jimmy Young won the fight. And I remember asking my uncle, did you think Young won that fight? He said, no. In order to be a champion, you got to knock out the champion. You can't just win on a decision. And for the most part, that was an unwritten rule in boxing. Until April 6, 1987, when Marvin Hagler lost a close decision against Sugar Ray Leonard. It's changed the sport of boxing to this day. I started out covering fights for websites. From there, I got into promoting fights, managing fighters, and before long, I made a living out of it, and I loved it. True, I did lose my life savings a couple of times with boxing, but like most people who get bitten by the boxing bug, and most people here could agree with me, it's something that doesn't matter whether you have your ups or downs, and it's something that never leaves. I kept moving forward, and thanks to boxing, I did get to travel around, been to Europe several times, etc. But the biggest thing that I will always remember are the great people that I got to meet with the sport of boxing. I had several fighters I worked with over the years. Chevelle Halbach, together we won several world titles together. In 2003, my brother convinced me, after all the beatings I was taking from promotion and everything else, my brother convinced me to open up a gym, which I did not really want to do, but he talked me into it, and we opened up a gym in Poughkeepsie, New York. As is the case with most gyms, it's hard to get people to come into a strictly boxing gym. So we were coming up with ideas of how to promote the gym. And that's when the infamous Jeremy C., my cousin, came up with the idea of the show, the Talking Boxing with Billy C. show. I thought maybe doing a live show out of the gym would entice people to join the gym. That didn't work, but the show did get picked up after our pilot. And as Bob mentioned, we did very well. We ended up on over 30 channels, AM and FM throughout the United States and Canada, on several TV stations, and we had over 250,000 podcast subscribers. I had a co-host who passed away from cancer, and it kind of diminished the show a little bit. I took a year off, and to be honest with you, it's never gotten back to that level. But then again, the fans have changed, and I think that was one of the things that had bothered me the most. It seemed like a lot of young fans today are only concerned with what's happening today. And I feel that boxing, unlike any other sport, fans need to understand the history of the sport, and they need to understand about all the fighters that came before them, and the path that they made and opened up all the doors that the fighters of today are walking through and enjoying. And I took it personal that a lot of the younger fans were not receptive to that. That was another reason for me. It was summed up really when I was writing my book and I was promoting it on the show. Now, for those of you that have never heard of Tom Molyneux, he fought for the title in 1810. Keep that date in mind, because I had a listener email me and was asking me if I could send him any links of YouTube videos of him fighting. I couldn't, explain to this guy that they didn't have cameras in 1810, let alone YouTube. But nonetheless, it was a great run, and we still do the show, and we enjoy it. I want to thank everybody from the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame who have given me this honor, and joining the rest of the greats here for the 2024. I'll never forget in the inaugural year, 2012, when a friend of mine, I'm sure you've all heard of Howard Letterman, had called me and was so excited to be inducted into the New York State Boxing Hall of Fame. He actually sent me the poster that's in my office right now. So I just want to thank, first and foremost, all the listeners and viewers that have supported us over the years. We're in our 21st year, actually. And then, of course, Alice Berpali, Dax Khan, Scotty Krause, Dave Wilcox, Emily Harney, Larry Hazard, John Mosquiunas, Kenny Roberts, Carl King, and the infamous Jeremy C., as well as some of my good friends who were involved in boxing, who are no longer with us, Johnny Boz, Ernie Shavers, and the other Billy C., Billy Costello. And last but not least, a man who was like a brother to me, and he was my co-host, and after we lost him, it was very difficult to do the show, and that's the late great Rocky, Sal Rocky Senecola. And I want to thank everybody on the board for giving me this opportunity, and that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Billy.